Hey everybody, welcome to the start of a brand new game series. We're going to be playing ARK Survival Evolved. For this playthrough, I wanted to do something a little bit different than a lot of other playthroughs. I wanted to try to, as I was going through the playthrough, to maybe like teach you guys some tips or tricks that I know from playing this game before, and kind of help you guys out on your own game as you play along. At the start of this, I wanted to talk about how you're going to want to set up your ARK Survival Evolved single player game. And the first thing is really setting up the settings of the game. So that's what I want to talk about first. I want to talk about, in this episode, setting up your ARK Survival Evolved world for the first time, for the beginner. I'm going to talk about all the settings that you can go to. I'm going to talk about all the different aspects of those settings, what they change, why you would want to change them, and the differences between an ARK solo world and an ARK server. Let's get right into it. So we got the first few buttons on the home screen. You open up the game, this is what it's going to show. You've got join ARK, host local, options, survival guide, credits and exit, right? Join ARK is for multiplayer. You click this and you're going to get all your servers, but we aren't talking about that. We're talking about single player, which is this one right here, host/local. So in the host local, there's a lot of different settings. There's the single player button, which right off the bat, you don't just want to hit this button right off the bat. You don't want to just jump right into a game, because there's a lot of settings and different ways you could play the game that not a lot of people really change, because these basic settings, they're optimized for a server setting, because ARK was designed generally to be a multiplayer and MMO game, right? So playing on survival is a lot different than a server, right? Because in a server, the major difference is time. You have lots of time, because as you're going throughout your day-to-day, the server is still running. So you have the time constraints in a single-player world, and you have the personnel constraints. You don't have all your friends. You don't have all your server mates. You don't have your tribe mates to help you farm resources, to help you tame that high-level T-Rex. You don't have those guys. So what you need to do is you need to customize these settings options to better suit a single player world. And I'm going to talk you guys through that. I'm going to talk you guys through that today, and we're going to go right into the details. Okay? So we're going to start off basics. No one knows anything about it. So we're going to start off with the first setting up here, difficulty level. Now this is one of the most important settings around here, because the difficulty level in ARK is different than a lot of other games. The difficulty level in ARK is controlling the dinosaur level aspect. So dinosaurs in ARK, they spawn with a random chance of any level. And what this setting does here is it changes the difficulty, which means that higher level dinos can spawn, and therefore higher level tamed dinos that you can tame. But what you really want to do in any single player world, in any ARK you're going to play on, you're going to want to take this difficulty level and you want to crank it all the way up, because that's going to give you the max level dinos, which would be level 150. These ones here I'm going to group together: dino damage, player damage, structure damage. So dino damage, first off, all of your dinos, every dino, tamed ones, wild ones, if you increase this stat, they're going to do more damage. It's a multiplier, so this is 100%. You take it to 200% damage, so they do 2 times the amount of damage, right? Player damage, same thing. If you increase this interval, you're increasing how much damage players deal in this world. The XP multiplier in ARK is basically just what it sounds like. It's the XP multiplier, so you turn it up, and you're going to get more XP. So in ARK you can get XP passively, or by doing things like chopping down trees, crafting items, stuff like that. You turn this up, you're going to get more XP faster. You're going to level up faster. I would not recommend turning it up, because it it makes the game a little too fast. You start to get things that you aren't prepared for, so you can't really keep up with the amount of engrams you're getting. You're getting engrams and engram points too fast to really keep up with, so you're going to start getting things that you can't even begin to think about crafting at the point when you're still living on the beach. You're still in your beach hut, still in your old thatch hut, and you're going to be able to start crafting like metal items, and that isn't something you really want. So I would take it, leave it right where it is. Okay, so the next thing we're going to be talking about is taming speed right here. And taming speed is how fast or slow your dinos in ARK are going to be taming. You turn it all the way up, dinos are going to be taming really fast. You're going to be turning it down, and it takes a really long time. I would not recommend this. I would usually, what I would recommend is taking this up to actually 4 taming speed off the list, because in single player, like I said before, these settings are optimized for a server environment where you have lots of time, where even if you're not currently playing in the game, the server is still running and things are still happening. But in single player, that doesn't happen. You don't have that in single player. The only time things are moving is when you are currently playing in the game. You're doing things. Or I guess you could, like AFK there, you could spawn into the world and just stay there and wait for a while, but that takes up a lot more computer power. So like you have to have the game open all the time. Unlike where on the servers, that's run somewhere else. So I would recommend turning the taming speed up, because it just makes the game a lot more fun, and that's the whole reason you're playing this game. Not to make it super hard on yourself and feel like a super difficult grind. This is constantly a grind session. What you want to have is a fun time taming dinosaurs. That's what this game is meant to be. And so I would recommend putting this up to 4. You could do 3 as well, but I personally, doing some testing, I like the 4.0 taming speed. Structure, damage, repair, cooldown. So basically, most of this I'm going to skip, because this is just how long it takes for you to repair your structures. Dino turret damage, that's when you have certain dinosaurs in ARK. You can put them in what's called turret mode. And in turret mode, these dinosaurs, they will, as other players or other aggressive dinosaurs will come along, they will shoot at them, or spit at them, or bite them as they walk by. That's what turret mode is. So when you turn this up, you're just turning up the specific dino damage that happens when they go into turret mode. That's all this is. Dino harvesting damage. I wouldn't really change this. It's just how much damage the dinosaurs do to harvestable items. So when you tame certain dinos to go and harvest things, and what this does is it turns up the amount of damage they do to those harvestable items, like trees or rocks or metal nodes. All those things, if you turn this up, dinos will do more damage to that. Harvest amount. Now, this is about how much things, like how much items you get from the rocks or the trees or the metal nodes or all that stuff, all the stuff that you break. When you break them, when you harvest them, this is going to change how much you get. So I believe that turning it up gives you more, and turning it down gives you less. And again, because this is optimized for a server setting where you have multiple people and you have a lot of time, I would also recommend turning this up. Because again, you want to be able to keep this game from having fun, and you don't want it to feel like it's going on forever and ever. Also, I'm doing it because I'm making videos while I'm doing this, and making videos takes time, and I don't want to have to sit through a ton of grind work in order to make a 1-2 minute section in the video, right? But I would also recommend just turning this up for a regular player, because in single player, it would be more fun, it would be more entertaining, and it wouldn't take as much time. Because I personally, I find it quite enjoying to do certain kinds of grind work. Going around riding on dinosaurs, punching trees, it's a lot of fun. You can keep yourself having fun. You can just enjoy it a lot. And so it's up to personal preference. It's all about having fun. If you want to turn this up, go ahead, turn it up. I prefer it turned up higher, but you don't have to. You can choose whatever you want. The next one's player character and dino character, food and stamina, and water drain. Now I'm kind of grouping these together because they're all the same. So food drain, again, how fast you lose water, how fast you lose food. That's what these two are right here. I don't really mess with them. If you want to, it's kind of annoying in the beginning of the game to keep getting food. And when I first started playing, I think I turned this down a little bit. But I wouldn't really mess with it right now because it's once you know what you're doing, it's not as hard as it seems at the beginning. And dino character food drain, same thing with dinosaurs. Just dinosaurs don't have to drink water. It's a thing in this game. All they have to do is eat food, and this is the same for dinosaurs. How fast they lose food. The next thing is player and dino character stamina drain. Again, all of these, I don't really mess with. The food drain, the water drain, the stamina drain, the health recovery. I don't really mess with them because I don't feel like it's going to add too much to the game. Besides changing it a little bit. If anything, I might turn up the health recovery, but that's just personal preference. Everything else isn't really different for me. The next thing we have is the player harvesting damage, which is the same as the dino harvesting damage up here. So there's the dino count here, and the dino count changes how many active dinosaurs you can have in the game at once, and how many dinosaurs can spawn in actively as you're going around. So the dino count will, turning this up any more than it already is, will change how many dinos can be active in your world at the same time. So how many dinos will be there if you were to say load in a new place. This is controlling how many dinosaurs would spawn there. The non-dedicated host tether distance. Okay, this one's interesting. This is how far away dinosaurs in this game will stay active. And active means that they are moving around and their AI has, when they go into sleep, or they basically they're not moving, they aren't active, their AI isn't processing anything, then this is that distance. How far away you get from it is this. So if you're going farther away from dinosaurs, there's a certain distance at which their AI shuts off and they go from active dinos to passive dinos, where they aren't doing anything. They're still loaded because dinos don't despawn in ARK unless they get too far away from their spawning spot, or you kill them. Obviously, that's the only two ways you eliminate dinos from an ARK game. And this is just the distance of how long it takes for them to, how far away before they become passive dinos, where they don't do anything and they don't run on, they don't take up computer processing power. So third person camera is when in the game the default setting is just scrolling your mouse back. For Xbox and PC, I believe it's in a wheel. You have to hold down the one of the buttons to get up a toggle wheel, and it will allow you to change the third person camera. Global voice chat you don't really need to talk about because it is a single player game, so it'd be pretty weird if somebody started talking. Proximity text chat, again, don't really need to talk about. Player left, player joined, automatically checked for some reason, even though I've never ever had somebody join me on my solo game. Admin logging, it's just log what has been put in as commands, what admin commands have been used. If you want to turn this on, sure, I don't think there's really a purpose in this sort of single player gameplay I'm going to be going through. Enable crosshair is a big help in this game. If you want it to be a little harder, you can turn this off. I like it. It just lets you be able to see where you're pointing, lets you be able to see where you're pointing easier. Force no HUD, which is the screen, like the screen you see. So like you're gonna have all your stats over here, all your hot bar down here. This is the HUD. Force no HUD means that you can't see any of that, so you can't see any of your stats, you can't see any of your tools. It's for more difficult playing. Same with enabling crosshairs. This is just to change kind of the difficulty of the game. Disable loot crates. No, just don't do this. This is going to make the game significantly harder because loot crates is the only way that you can get higher level weapons, saddles, and basically anything in this game. Anything you want a higher level version of it, these are the only things you're going to get those from. So I would definitely not recommend turning these off unless you really want a much more difficult way going through it. Hardcore mode. So hardcore mode just makes it so that if you die, you have no levels. You start from level 1. You again start on the beach, level 1. Pretty sad. If you want to do this, it's pretty fun, really difficult, especially at the beginning of the game when you die quite often to everything. But even then, it's not too hard. PvE mode means that no one can hurt each other. PvE mode is player versus everything, player versus environment. It means that just you won't be able to attack your player mates in a server setting. You're not in a server, so you don't really need to change this. Friendly fire, again, same thing. You can't hit your other players in your same tribe on a server setting. We don't need to change that. So the next one is show player map location. So this is just on your map. It's going to give you a little blue arrow of where your character is currently on the map. And I like to have this one checked. Usually it's like this, unchecked, so you can't see where you are on the map, but I like to have it checked because specifically if in ARK, if you don't have this, then you can't see where you are on the map. And unless you have like a GPS, you aren't be able to see your coordinates. So the map is pretty much useless until you get used to the terrain, or you know where you are. Like, oh, I'm next to the Frozen Tooth, which is a mountain in ARK. I'm next to the Frozen Tooth, so if I head like northeast, I can get to my home, right? But at that point, you don't really need the map anymore because you already know where you are relative to where you've been, relative to where you're going. So I usually have this checked because, I mean, I already know the islands specifically so well that I don't really need this map anymore. Especially with the beacons, because you can see those. They're big in there, and if you know where the beacons are, then you know where your base is. Tribute downloads is specifically downloading items or characters from other servers. So this means that in ARK, as you go through, and you can go to like a beacon or a tech transmitter, and you can upload yourself to different servers or different worlds. So if I'm playing on the island and I go to a beacon, I can put dinos and items in there, and then I can download my character and transfer over to, say, Scorched Earth, and I could be able to go to a beacon there and pick up my dinosaurs and stuff. If you turn this on, it won't let you do that. It won't let you download dinos or items onto other maps. Survivor downloads is the same thing, where you start on the map, you won't be able to take your player your specific character from the island and put them on Scorched Earth. I would not recommend this because it's a lot more fun to be able to go through each of the maps with your same character who's already leveled up with their dinos. No dino downloads is specifically for dinosaurs, and no item downloads is specifically for items. So no item downloads, no items go across, no dino downloads, no dinos go across. Maximum difficulty. Maximum difficulty is different in ARK than a lot of others. It doesn't make everything a lot harder. What it does is it sort of makes it easier for higher level dinos to be spawned. So what it does is basically it's official difficulty override offset. So it changes the override offset to be 5. And what that does is it makes it so that each of your dinos, any dino in the game, can only spawn with a multiple of 5. And what that does in ARK is ARK dinosaurs, when they spawn, they have a random chance to spawn at any level. They can spawn at level 1 to level 150 if you have this setting up here at 1. But they have a random chance to spawn between any level between 1 and 150. You have a 1 in 150 chance to get the dino level that you want, or any dino level. Now, what maximum difficulty does is it makes it so that all the dinos only spawn with multiples of 5. So the multiple of 5 makes it so that instead of there only being a 1 in 150 chance, there's a 1/30 chance. And that's a big difference. So it makes it so that a lot higher level dinos spawn. And that can be harder at the beginning of the game, but it also makes things a lot better at the end of the game. So I would definitely recommend having this on in your single player world, just because it makes finding higher level dinosaurs for taming a lot easier. PvP Gamma is Gamma in a PvP setting. So Gamma is just how bright the world is. It changes the gamma correction of the world, so how bright it is, how bright you see it. What this does is it lets you change your gamma in a PvP setting. That's just mostly server based. You don't really need to change it. Use single player settings is an interesting one. So it changes a lot of the aspects for a game and optimizes them for single player use. I don't really like to have this checked because I'm not sure exactly what is changing, and I like to know that. I like to know exactly what settings I've changed so I can go back and tweak them later if I don't like the way they're turning out. Don't like the way I'm playing the game, how it feels. So I generally turn this off and do all of the modifications myself in the settings menu. Yeah, that's the single player settings. Use Corp Locator when you die and shoots a beam up into the sky, so that when you get close enough, when your body loads in and shoots a beam up into the sky where you can find it. I like having this on, just personal preference. If you don't like it, turn it off. That's all it does. Disable structure placement collision. So this is for ARK building. When you're building an ARK house or home or base, usually the structures can't go into the ground, can't go into other structures, and can't nick anything. So if the tiniest corner of your ceiling is touching a rock, it won't let you place it there. So I like to turn this on so that it gives me a bit more free reign when I'm building bases, to build a base that I like, that looks good, which I feel makes me happier with it, more pleased. I like it on. If you don't, again, this is all about you having fun in your ARK survival world. Allow multiple platform floors. So on certain dinosaurs in ARK, you can have platform saddles, which is basically a mobile house on top of your dinosaur. This setting lets you have multiple floors on that platform saddle. So build a floor, build a ceiling, build on top of that ceiling. I'm pretty sure the limit is 3 tall. I might be wrong about that, but this just lets you build up a lot higher on the platform saddles. Allow unlimited recipes is a setting for the Mind Wipe Tonic in ARK. It lets you be able to drink the Mind Wipe Tonic, which basically makes you forget all the engrams you learned, all of these things, and brings you back to level 1, which is good for changing what level you are. So allow unlimited recipes lets you take the Mind Wipe Tonic without having to level up again, which means that you take the Mind Wipe Tonic and instantly get all the levels you had before, so you can change what they go into. So this is used a lot. I like this setting because I use it a lot when I do custom recipes, because when I'm regularly playing the game, I like to have a specific amount of points go to certain things like health, food, or stamina, and I want to be able to change that when I'm doing custom recipes or any blueprints that require more crafting skill, or that I want to have more crafting skill for. So you can use the Mind Wipe Tunic to forget all the levels you had, instantly gain them back, and be able to level up whatever you want. And this is why I have the setting checked. Again, personal preference. And disable dino taming. In single player, with these settings enabled, is impossible, because it's just you all alone in the wild. And then, you know, creative mode, which is creative mode. If you're going to be doing massive base building, or you want to have a creative world that you can do tests on, this is what you would do. Next up on the list, we have the advanced settings. Here we go. So these settings at the top are all PvE settings. PvE settings that I don't really change much, because again, I'm talking about setting up a single player world, and PvE is more for a server setting. So I don't usually look at these things too much. Again, with all of these things, you usually want to skip past this section, because it doesn't really pertain to a single player world. These settings, however, do. So prevent diseases. In ARK, you can get sick, just like in real life. Who knew, right? So these settings prevent you from having diseases, getting sick. Non-permanent diseases is like swamp sickness. In ARK, if you go into the swamp, you can get sick. You have a potential of getting sick, and that disease, after you die, after it kills you, you'll respawn and you'll still be sick. These two things, if you want to, you can change them. They make the game a little bit harder. If you want to turn those off, if you want to not have to deal with getting sick, you can turn these off. It's not that big of a deal. It doesn't really change the experience of the game too much. It just makes it a bit easier. Force allow cave flyers. So this lets you be able to take your flyers into a cave. So on a regular ARK world, you can't take flying dinosaurs into a cave. You'll be able to fly them in, and then as you get to a certain point within the cave, it'll kick you off the dinosaurs. You won't be able to ride on them. And if you want to be able to fly into the cave on your flyers, makes a lot of the caves a ton easier. If you want to do this, go ahead, go for it, have fun. I personally don't think it's that big of a deal. There's a lot of dinos you can go in on that are great at going through the caves, and just flying over everything isn't really that enjoyable, for me anyway. The next setting we're going to talk about is override structure platform prevention. So the platform prevention means that turrets you have on a platform saddle won't shoot. Dino turrets or regular turrets. Spike walls won't be built there. Basically anything that hurts or attacks something won't attack that thing on the platform saddle. Turning this on, checking this means that they can. So you can take say a Bronto, and you can, if this is checked, you can put turrets on the Bronto, and you can just walk around on a death machine. And it's a lot of fun, actually. If you want to try it, it's great fun. On my single player world, I'm not going to be using this. The next setting we're going to be talking about is disable imprint dino. Now, the imprint dino buff is when you raise a dinosaur baby up from being a baby. And this setting, when enabled, makes it so that you don't get the buff from imprinting a dino, basically making imprinting a dinosaur irrelevant. Because when you imprint a dino, they get a massive buff. It's not actually that large, but in a single player world, it can do wonders for your dinosaurs, being your only protection in ARK. Poop interval, how often you go to the bathroom. Lay egg interval is how often dinosaurs will lay eggs. Turning this up will make the dinosaurs lay more eggs. Turning it down will make the dinosaurs lay less eggs. Mating intervals. So now we're getting into the mating and imprinting stats for dinosaurs. Now the mating interval is how long it takes for the dinosaurs to mate. And you turn it down, it goes faster. You turn it up, it takes longer. Generally, I turn this way down, because does it really take that long to mate? Egg hatch speed is how long it takes for your egg to hatch, and for the baby to finish gestate inside of the mom. I generally turn this up more because I find it more fun. Because in a regular survival world on a server, you can just put your egg in the incubator or whatever you're using to hatch it. You just incubate the egg and just leave. You can just leave and the server will keep running. You just set a timer on your phone and come back to it when it's done. You can't do that in survival. It takes online interaction with the game in order to make this go up. So I turn up the egg hatch speed. Same with the baby mature speed. I usually do the same setting. I usually do 30 because I feel like that's a good balance between having faster ability to be able to do it in survival, so it doesn't take so long to get that nice imprinted Rex army for boss fighting. And that's just what I feel like is most fun for when I play. If you don't want to do this, if you want to stick with the regular settings for servers, I would do that. But also let it be known that the single player setting down here, that is turned on automatically when you're playing in a single player world, it buffs up these stats. It turned these up to like 16, I believe, because again, even the ARK game developers know that egg hatch speed takes a long time in a single player world. Baby food consumption speed, don't really touch this, just how often the baby needs to eat, because regular dinosaurs can eat from a trough where you can just throw the food in and they'll eat. Babies can't do this, and they spawn in with really low food and really low health, so you need to feed them quite often, or at least put a lot of food in their inventory. Harvest health. Now, harvest health is how much health harvestable materials have. So, when you change this setting, the harvest health setting, you're changing how much health the stone you're hitting has. So the stone, by percentage, would have more health the more you turn this up. I wouldn't really change it that much. If you want to get more from your harvest, I would go to the harvest amount setting here, turn this up. I would not turn up the harvest health, because then it does give you slightly more materials, but it also means that it takes longer to break, so I generally don't mess with this. Resource respawn period. Don't change this either. Just how often resources respawn. So in this game, there's sometimes a glitch that happens when you log off. Sometimes none of the resources respawn, and what you need to do for that is you need to turn this all the way down and come down to the no resource radius for players, and you turn that all the way down, and then fly around the map a little bit. Whatever isn't loading in, that's what you need to do. Otherwise, I don't change this setting. It just, however long it takes is however long it takes. The next setting we're going to be talking about is the baby cuddle interval multiplier. Now, this setting changes how often the baby wants to cuddle to get imprinted points. Now, if you're going to change the baby mature speed at all, you're going to need this change the same amount. But the difference is that this one, the more you turn it down, the more often the babies want to cuddle. Now, the cuddle interval needs to be turned down quite a bit in order to keep up with this 30 mature speed. So, because it has to be turned down the same amount that this was turned down, I believe, doing some quick math, this needs to be like 0.25 or something like that, 224. Because of how high I turned this up, I need to turn this up just the same amount in the opposite direction. I need to turn it down just as much as I turn this up. That's the setting, and if you're ever going to change any of these settings, you need to change them all, or else it won't be able to work. You won't be able to imprint your dinosaur fully because they grow up too fast. So the baby cuddle grace period is when the baby wants to cuddle and you don't do anything with it and you just leave it be, and you already imprinted it a little bit, like say you've imprinted it twice and then you forget about it and it wants to be cuddled, wants to be imprinted on, and you don't, after a certain amount of time, this is how long it takes before it starts losing imprinting. And these two go in tangent. This is how fast it loses imprint quality, and this is how long before it loses imprint quality. Imprinting stat scale multiplier. This is how much of a stat boost they get when you imprint your dinosaurs. The day cycle speed, the day time speed, and the night time speed. They all go together. The day cycle speed is basically how fast the entire thing goes. So this changes how long the day is, this changes how long the night is, and this changes how long it takes for them to cycle. So you turn this up and you turn both of these up, basically. It changes both. This setting is both of these together. If you just want to change the daytime, you turn up this one. If you just want to change the nighttime, you turn up this one. Turning it up makes it go faster, turning it down makes it go slower. I don't generally change these. If anything, I might turn this up all the way and leave these two the same. Maybe turn this down a little bit so that it takes just longer for the whole process to go on. And that's how I like it. That's generally how I use it, because in the nighttime, it's really boring. It's really only useful for Troodon taming, and I don't tame Troodons because, in my opinion, they aren't very useful. Spoiling time, I don't change. This is how long it takes for items in your inventory to spoil, like berries, meat, prime meat, all that stuff. It has a spoil time, and this is how long it takes for these items to spawn, to spoil. Turning it up makes them spoil slower. I believe turning it up makes it spoil slower. Same with the item decomposition time and the corpse decomposition time. How long before an item left on the ground will decompose, be deleted from the game so it doesn't take up processing power. Same with the corpses, how long it takes for them to decompose. I don't generally change these because changing the spoiling time messes with narcotic making. And narcotics is how you keep dinosaurs from waking up during the middle of taming them. Because you need to trank them in the face, they're going to fall asleep, and you're going to force feed them food until they become your best friend. And in order to make them, you need to have spoiled meat. And so if you take any meat, and once it spoils, it turns into spoiled meat, and once it spoils again, it goes away. The next settings are the no resource radius around players and structures. And this basically changes how close resources can spawn around structures and yourself as you play the game. So you build your new house, right? You have to flatten some land, you have to get rid of some rocks, move some trees. You don't want those trees to respawn back in your house, right? So this is what this does. Same thing with the player. You don't want to be standing in a rock when it respawns. That's why I generally don't change these. Crop growth speed and crop decay speed. This changes how fast they grow and how long until they die. And when the crops die, they obviously stop growing. You have to grow again from seeds you place in there again. The next set of stats and settings are the wild dino stats and the tame dino stats and the player stats. All of these are going to change how much health wild dinos have, how much stamina wild dinos have, how much health tame dinos have. Generally, I don't change these because, again, it'll make life both better and worse. Because the higher health wild dinos have, the more you have to punch them to kill them. But the higher health your tame dinos will have. These are the player stats. I don't change these. Experience multipliers is how much you get from generic, just passive experience. When you're just playing in the game, when you're online, you'll passively generate experience. Turning this up will give you more. Turning it up will give you more from a kill. Turning it up for this will give you more from harvesting. Turning it up for this will give you more when you craft items. And this is from extra things like the dinosaurs that give XP buffs, like the Lystrosaurs. The max players you can have in your tribe, we don't care about because, again, single player. We don't have friends in this. Player max experience points. Again, that's how many. That's how high of a level you can be. This is the max high level you can be. I don't change any of these settings, except for this setting down here. Allow rad dino. I might turn on because there's certain dinos in ARK that when you tame them, they won't eat. They won't breed. So I generally like to have this on because if titanosaurs that I'm taming, especially in single player, because it's so hard to tame dinosaurs by yourself. You add one more person, it becomes so much easier. And I don't want the dinosaurs that I tamed to die. So I like to have this one on. If you don't, by all means turn it off. Food drain for rad dinos, food drain for the dinosaurs that don't like to cooperate or eat food. Custom recipe effectiveness. So custom recipes in ARK is custom food recipes. So you take food that you have and you cook it in a pot and basically experiment until you get something that gives you more food and water than a regular item would. I love doing crafting recipes because you can get some great stat buffs with the food. You can get some great health to come with it, as well as stamina. So later in the game, I'll probably make some custom recipes. I don't like to change the skill factor for it, or the effectiveness for it, because I like the way it is right now. The crafting skill bonus multiplier. This is how much crafting skill bonus. So in ARK, you can level up your crafting skill, and that makes it so that these recipes become more effective. Turning this up makes it better. Turning it down makes it worse. Again, most of these ones I don't change. The supply crate loot quality, I'm not going to change. Turning this up makes better loot come out of your loot drops. Loot crates, the sky beacons that drop down from the sky. Fishing loot quality, same thing. When you do fishing in ARK, you can get random drops and loot from it. Turning this up turns up the quality of loot you get from that. Fuel consumption is for things like the generator, the electric generator, the fabricator, all the things that use gasoline. this changes how often they consume that gasoline. Turning it up means they consume it more, turning it down means they consume it less. And the last setting is increase platform structure limit. How much you can snap structures to platform saddles. Now that we've finished looking through all the settings for you to start up your own single player world, I think we're going to get right into this. We're going to spawn here on the island right now after I do a quick double check of all the settings around here. Make sure I did everything right. Okay, looks like we're good. So let's start this up. Here we go. We're going to come over here and we're going to hit create new survivor. And this is what's going to pop up. This is the screen you're going to see. This is your creation screen. So you guys, you create your character. I'm going to create mine. And we'll meet back here when you're done with that. Here we go. Finished up making my character. Now we're going to name it. This is my character. Here we go. Sorry guys, that seems like that's all the time we have for today. If you guys did enjoy this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends. If you guys found anything that I didn't explain very well, or you thought of anything that I didn't cover in this video, go ahead and comment it down below, and I'm sure I'll appreciate it. Everybody else will appreciate it here. If you guys want to see more ARK from me, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Next episode, we're going to talk about day 1.